It would be fair to say that Transistor is a rather special game to me. I first played it in February of 2015 when it was one of the freebies for PS Plus that month. I was a junior in high school at the time and therefore broke, so I would at least give most of the PS Plus games a look at that point in my life. My first time playing the game was one of those experiences that I didn't realize how much I was enjoying the game right up until I was done. I certainly didn't expect to be thinking about it weeks later or watching the ending again months after the fact. Well, here we are 7 years later, and I can place Transistor firmly in my top 4 video games that I've played up to this point in my life. In a lot of ways, my fondness for Transistor set the pace for what my taste in games and other entertainment media would be going into my adulthood. So what about this game resonated with me so much? A couple of my friends would say it's because I'm a sucker for a love story. And, well, maybe. I like stories that can say a lot with just a little. The relationship between Red and Boxer provides a very strong emotional through line for a world brimming with exceptionally interesting themes of choice and change that serve not only to enhance the setting of Cloudbank, but also reinforce Red's story to be that much more poignant. A quick spoiler warning before we get started, as I am going to be going into the details of the game, so if you haven't played it, I really recommend against watching this video. It's a beautiful game, don't let my retelling of it be the way that you experience the game. I would also like to direct you to another video called Transistor, a Literary Analysis by the channel Games as Literature. Before I saw this video, a lot of my own thoughts on Transistor were more like hazy concepts rather than something I could eloquently communicate to another person. Seeing this video helped me bring a lot of my own thoughts on the game into focus, so I feel like I need to cite it as an inspiration. Also, it's an actual, literary analysis and probably a much better video than whatever this is gonna turn out to be. So, go check it out. Link is in the description. One of the game's biggest tone setters happens in about the first 15 minutes. After a couple of introductory battles, as well as a little bit of world building, Red finds a motorcycle, to which Boxer, the voice in the Transistor, remarks,
"That's our way out." Okay, E64 on-ramp. 5 blocks down. Take the second right. Do not turn left.
When the screen fades back in, Boxer remarks that Red did in fact turn left. This is a well done moment for a couple of reasons. First of all, I feel like any other game would have made it so that their way out got cut off by the process and thus rendering them unable to escape and forcing them back into the city. Secondly, Red makes this decision completely independent of the player's control. One of the first things that's stated about her is that she's lost her voice, and thus making her a form of silent protagonist. But this moment here does an immaculate job of making it clear that Red is more than just an avatar to project yourself onto. The idea of having such an important choice and completely divorcing the player of any input to this day seems really cool to me. That's not to say that the player has no say at all. The combat system of the game does encourage experimentation, and there are decisions to be made at the OVC terminals, such as what color you want the sky to be and which flatbread you want delivered to Red's apartment. The OVC terminals are honestly a beautiful way to contrast whose choices actually matter. Red made a decision that allows the plot to happen, and the player gets to choose cosmetic changes that barely seem different from each other. This relationship that the player has with the trivial decisions is actually quite similar to the relationship that the Camerata has with the concept of choice. See, similarly to how all the player has a hand in are the trivialities of things like the weather that impacts neither the story nor the gameplay, because of how Cloudbank is run prior to the events of the story, the Camerata also feel like they're stuck making trivial decisions. Cloudbank, the setting of the game, is a digital paradise in which everyone who inhabits it is given a voice, so much so that everything that happens in the city is determined by a vote, be it the building of a bridge, what the weather is going to be like, or even who gets booked at the local concert hall. All of it is determined by the whims and wishes of the people, and the Camerata, while more influential than most on an individual level, are just a drop of water in the ocean of Cloudbank's population. That makes them feel insignificant, and because of that, they seek to silence many of Cloudbank's voices, to take away choice from whomever they deem necessary, which brings us nicely to the next major theme.
When you speak, I hear silence. Every word a defiance. I can hear,
When everything changes, nothing changes. That's the motto of our villainous cabal, and yes, while it does just sound really cool, it's also a pretty blatant confession of existential dread. See, because Cloudbank is always subjected to the whims and wishes of the masses, it is almost impossible to do anything with any kind of lasting consequence, and that's the chief motivation for 3 out of 4 of the members of the Camerata. Royce is an engineer, an architect for the city, but while he could choose to make any number of creations, a monument, a highway, a park, it all becomes a little moot if his efforts are overturned because the population of Cloudbank votes his creation out of existence the following week. Asher Kendrill is an editor for the OVC who likes to study history. Studying the past becomes quite difficult when there's nothing long-standing enough to make a big enough impact to be of any historic value in Cloudbank. Grant Kendrill is an administrator, a public servant who contributes to quietly keeping the city running smoothly. His problem is that he has desires to be an actual leader, but his position would always keep him trapped fighting for nearly every social issue on whatever side of the matter was popular, rather than taking an actual stance. In a sort of amusing way, these 3 Camerata members are a thematic opposite to Red. They all have stations in life that are very much subject to the feelings of the masses. Red, on the other hand, is a songstress, and a rather popular one. Someone who has the ability to influence the population of Cloudbank beyond what any of the positions held by the Camerata are capable of. And rather than wanting to wield that influence for her own benefit, it seems to be something that weighs on Red pretty heavily. This is evidenced by a few things. The lyrics of the song The Spine very much seem to express the fact that Red is aware of the influence that she carries, but is very frustrated by it, describing herself as being able to see the spine of the world and seeing it twisted and tied. The other bit of evidence present is in her trace file. Part of it details an altercation breaking out during one of her concerts. This is the moment that is stated to be when Red fully realized the effect that her music had on people, and afterward she stepped away from the spotlight, potentially to reevaluate the responsibilities that came with the level of influence that she holds. And it's also another instance of her disrupting what little status quo Cloudbank has, as it is stated that an incident like that had not happened for 4 years. The other fun thing about Red and the Camerata is, the Camerata begin scheming up a way to create some sort of lasting change in Cloudbank, a form of control beyond the whims of the population. And Red already has something that can't be changed by the masses. Not her music career, that's as subject to the population's whims as any other music artist, despite the influence that she holds because of it. What I mean is Red's relationship with Boxer. Royce, Asher, and Grant were all focused on doing something to leave their mark on Cloudbank, and while Red achieves that in her own right, there's something to be said about how she and Boxer leave their mark on each other, one that will never change and never be erased. The masses of Cloudbank can't vote away their feelings for each other, and the process causing the end of their world also couldn't erase their relationship, much to the chagrin of Sybil, the 4th member of the Camerata. And this leads nicely into the final chapter. So change was the motivation for 3 out of 4 of the Camerata members. But Red's motivation is love. Her love for music and self-expression is the reason she wants her voice back, and her love for Boxer is the reason that she'll go to such lengths to attempt to put him back into his body. Love is also, in some warped way, the motivation for Sybil, although in Sybil's case it's more of a psychotic attraction, but nonetheless it is what kickstarted the demise of Cloudbank, and Red's love is what allows her to fight through the end of the world. To reiterate with a touch more clarity, Sybil is the fourth and final member of the Camerata, and she is a socialite who met Red while planning an event for up-and-coming artists around Cloudbank. Afterward, she developed a bit of a stalker infatuation with Red, eventually became wise to Red and Boxer's relationship, and subsequently used her connections with the Camerata to have Boxer removed. My favorite thing about Sybil is that she is the Camerata member who causes the most to happen on her own accord. Sure, the others do try to assimilate Red, but they only do it because Sybil lied about Red being alone so that she could have Boxer pushed out of the way. The amusing thing here is that while the other three, Royce, Asher, and Grant, seem to all be motivated by the existential dread that's caused by the ephemeral nature of Cloudbank's society, Sybil is motivated more by a desire for a specific interpersonal connection with Red. And her attitude towards not getting what she wants could be seen as evidence of the entitlement that Cloudbank's society could create. In a lot of ways, she runs counter to the other three, in a sense, and I find it very interesting that of the four of them, her actions are the ones that kick the story into gear. And what a story it is. Alright, so the beat-to-beat plot of Transistor is not anything super extravagant, but it sets the stage for what really matters, and that's for the audience to witness Red and Boxer's relationship. I believe it is best summed up when Boxer says,
You know, Red, we make quite a team. Lady without a voice. Gent without a body.
This goes back to what I said about liking things that do a lot with a little. We only know Boxer through his voice, and because of how well his dialogue is written, and the incredible performance turned in by Logan Cunningham.
I'm okay. I'm still here. Hey. That you? Oh. Look at you. You're alive. Me, I'm not so sure. Could use your help. I know this looks bad. Hey, say something already. Say something, will you? Oh no.
It is easy to feel for the guy by the end of the game. In contrast to that, Red does not have a voice, or at least not one to speak with, so the bulk of her expression is conveyed through the impeccable animations that she has, and the scenes with the special artwork. The scene of her eating the flatbread from Junction Jan's, for example. She drapes her coat over the transistor as if she was placing it back around Boxer's shoulders, or the playful smirk that she gives Boxer when she sets the transistor down before going into the washroom. Other great moments include when the spine is making the transistor malfunction. She starts using the OVC terminal to type messages to Boxer. It concludes with her saying that she's going to murder the thing that is making him this way. She has an animation where she'll lovingly embrace the transistor, and it shows up in two notable instances. The first being after any kind of fight, and the second being when you push the dedicated hum button. Yeah, this game has a button dedicated to humming the background music, and it's amazing. It will see Red lovingly embrace the sword and vocalize into the handle as if it were a microphone. A cool detail that I didn't notice until playing the game after several times was if you hum when there's no background music, Red will hum Paper Boats, the credit song. I take this to be the thing that is always on her mind at a subconscious level, and a much more active thought when she's not in any kind of immediate danger. It really is a brilliant moment to trigger. Her singing a song about how the two of them won't be separated, using the remnants of her voice while embracing the very thing that houses the remnants of her lover. The brilliant portrayal of the two lead characters is what forms the emotional backbone that carries the player through the world of Cloudbank. The themes of choice and change that are present in the game wouldn't matter as much if Red was just a bog-standard, silent protagonist who was being narrated by someone who only knows her tangentially. And when the themes of love, choice, and change all collide, it makes for one of the most potent video game endings that I've ever experienced.
We got away. Red, we got away.
Red defeats Royce and emerges back at the bridge to Fairview with read-write access, effectively granting her the ability to shape Cloudbank as she sees fit. She has everything that Royce, Grant, and Asher wanted. The amusing thing is that Cloudbank is still no less subject to whims and wishes as it was before. It's just the wishes of one person instead of many. It is all moot though, because Red is still without the two things that matter most to her: her voice and Boxer. She couldn't bring Boxer back to his body, so she chooses to instead commit herself to the Transistor to be with him.
Red. Don't you do it. Don't you dare. Don't do this. Please. If you do this. Red, please don't. Wait. Red! Red. No, Red.
The reason that this is so powerful is because, unlike the weather or the type of flatbread that you order from Junction Jan's, this choice was not done on a whim. It was done in response to something that was unchangeable. Boxer's soul and Red's voice are stuck in the Transistor. There's no way around that. The story of Transistor begins and ends in response to something that is unchangeable. Red and Boxer's relationship was not going anywhere. There was no way around that. So Sybil tried to take matters into her own hands. Red fought through the end of the world just for the chance to bring Boxer back to his body, and when that didn't work, she took matters into her own hands. The one thing that never changed at all was Red and Boxer's love for each other. That love motivated Red's final choice, and that choice changed Cloudbank forever.